this thing that we've created with putting a person's garage together based on what their interests are and what their purpose is and what their function's going to be, and then aggregating all this stuff, this is like the dream, you know. And I wanted to create something where we could make people's dreams come true, put it all together for them, take a lot of that onus of buying the wrong thing. And I don't know if everything we have is the very best in the world. I'm certainly pursuing to see if I can figure out if it is. And if it's not, we're looking for the best in the world. But I'm certain that every single thing we're going to put in Charlie's garage is going to function well, it's going to look great, it's going to solve a lot of the problems that he didn't know he had.
Hey guys, I'm Kyle with the design team here at Obsessed Garage, and we've now had our first interview and run through of the garage and what Charlie is wanting to do, and really dived into all of the things that he wants to be able to do in the space, some of the products that he wants to be able to include, and then our vision for, possibly what that could be is what we're going to dive into now and looking into some of those products. So Charlie's not super into sports cars, but he's getting there and has some plans with this new garage to kind of get into that a little bit more, but he's been really into overlanding, wanting to build out different rigs with him and his boys and be able to also set this garage up for building their future vehicles, which is really cool because they're just a couple years or a few years away from being able to drive. So this garage has all of that in mind, plus being able to wash, vehicles, of course. Being in, Texas, it's hot, a lot of sun, so wants to be able to wash inside, outside when it's, appropriate. So let's dive into some of the things that we're planning for the space, and I'm just going to go through the rundown here. You can see I've got this list of items on my iPad for what we're going to be doing. So let's start with the lighting. We're going to be doing Cree LS lights throughout the entire garage. We'd messed around a little bit. You can see that this is a little bit different from my initial drawing where, we kind of tried to take the Fred approach with the car barn we did in California with, lighting all throughout with the recessed cans for 2 different zones, but it just didn't really work. It was too messy. So we've gone with just linear lights throughout. We did linear lights over here in the little kitchen area that's important to him. He does a lot of cooking and grilling and stuff like that. So he's got like a little kitchen prep area. We also did some linear lights in the storage room that'll be for like his bikes and that sort of thing. He's, his kids got a ton of bikes. He has bikes. So they're a big biking family and they need a dedicated space for that with good lighting. He's got this kind of open ceiling cupola thing here in the middle. It's got a beam that goes right through the middle. And so it kind of makes the lighting a little awkward in this middle area. So we've had to kind of go around that with the lighting. You can see the outline here for where that hole is. But all the linear lights out here, and then we'll do some recessed cans up in the higher ceiling up top. All of these are going to be on different zones, different dimmers. So that way he has full control over everything. Probably this by itself, the linear lights here by itself, these here, and then all of the, the recessed cans will be able to be controlled independently. But this will provide really good lighting all the way throughout. The next thing on the list, let me get the lighting out of the way here so you can see what we're working with. We're not doing a ton of flooring in here right now, at least for the plan, but mainly in the storage room down here, we're going to be doing some Swiss track. So I just did like a quick little idea of what a design could look like. If he's going to have bikes over in this section and maybe some storage over here, we don't want to put an outline all throughout that would get covered. So we're keeping that pretty simple. The idea behind flooring, doing the Swiss Trax flooring in there is it'll just keep that space clean all the time when they're bringing bikes in and stuff like that. I think throughout the rest of the space, we're going to go with just a really high-end porcelain tile. Something like a Porsche dealership or something in their service bay would be really cool. Pressure washing, that's going to be super important for for Charlie and his boys, and just being able to keep things clean. So the plan is for a dual Krenzel setup. Originally, Charlie talked about, maybe putting it on one of these front walls, which a lot of people think that, oh, that's a great little spot for it because it's out of the way, it's in between the garages and kind of that dead space area anyway. The problem is if you put a pressure washer in this spot here, the hose reel is pointing that direction. But if you wash out in the main area here, then you're having to pull your hose off the reel opposite direction, and then winding it back up at the end is a pain in the butt. So we talked about, where he has water access in this space. You can see these little marks right here on their original floor plan. That's a hose bib outside. He's also got this mud room over here that will, have some water access probably. So it actually made a lot more sense to put everything over in this back corner. That way he can pull off the hose reel right out the garage, or be able to wash, inside the garage as well. So that's going to be pretty sweet. We're going to do the new DI system that we're working on, and I'm excited to see how that's going to look. We're going to use the little cabinets for the DI system to go all the way across, and probably have like a little storage for towels and stuff like that. Next on the list, cabinets. And he had already designed this garage from a structure standpoint for some of the things that we were going to put in the space. Even before he entered the giveaway and all that, he knew he wanted to put these things in the garage. So this back space for the cabinets is set at about 30 inches deep, which is great. Pretty much any cabinet system will be able to fit in there. But because of how he's using this space, you can see we've got 2-car space here, 2-car space here, the cupola in the middle, of course. So if we set the cabinets into this middle section, the plan with these 2 spaces here is that he's going to have a lift here, and then a recess lift here. So this will be parking and car storage, or working area, and then the car storage will happen over here. If we put the cabinets right in the middle in this area, then they're going to end up being blocked by the corner of this lift for like tool storage and stuff like that, if we did all of the tools there. So we kind of jogged that over to the right, and what I did was we talked about doing bulk storage over on the left, a little bit more on the right to kind of frame it in, but then really putting all of the tool storage a little bit over to the right a little bit where he's going to have the lift, so that way everything is right next to the workspace. We're going to be doing MSS Plus in this garage. It's going to be a great system for doing the sonic foam inlays. It really makes a good ecosystem for everything to work together, and a place for every single tool, foam organization for all the tools. It's going to be fantastic. One of the other things that we're thinking about putting into this cabinet array, and why we wanted to kind of shift everything over into that more open space, was because he wants to be able to have a TV and some audio. And if we have that over stuck behind the big 4-post lift for storage, then that's not really going to work very well. So this will create a really good workspace for him that's accessible, open to the rest of the space, even though it may not be symmetrical with the entire garage. It's going to look really good with that other side. For other storage, he's got this kitchen area over here. He's going to do just some standard kitchen cabinets. Maybe we'll do something with like Plain and Fancy, or even NatureCast, even though that's an outdoor product, might work really well in there. Some Perlick freezers and fridges and that sort of thing. But over here in the storage area, if we switch over to that, we talked about doing some lev rack. In lev rack, because of all of the the bicycles and gear and stuff that he has with overlanding and all of that, lev rack is fantastic for that kind of stuff. You can pack it full of helmets and pads and spare parts and wheels, small parts for if you do like the drawer system in there as well. So that makes a really good dense storage option. He's got a lot of height here, I think 12 or 13 feet or something like that. So we'll be able to do a 12-foot high lev rack and have storage all the way up to the ceiling basically, which will be really cool. And then, bike storage over here on the opposite side. And then, of course, just kind of parking space here in the middle for the kids' bikes and stuff like that as they pull them in and out. They're going to be, using that space a lot. The only kind of concern or difficulty that, I just want to make sure that he's aware of, that we talked about, is, once we get into this lift that's going to be over here, it is going to be pretty tight because there's going to be a post here and cars and all of that. So his kids are just going to have to be a little careful. But, we got to deal with the space that you have and make it work for, how you're going to be using it and what you've got. All right, so that brings us to, one of the main features for the garage. This is the last item, and that's going to be the storage lift and the working lift. So we included that over here on the right. This is probably not exactly the scale, just kind of drawing it out for ideation and everything. But we're going to do one of the double wide bin pack lifts. I think it's the HD9 XW, I believe, or W something. But it's got 2 spots that raise 2 cars up into the air, which is really cool. So you can double up on your storage. So he'll be able to store 4 cars on this side of the garage, which is going to be super helpful. You can see here where this post is that we've got, not a lot of room for getting the bikes in, but that's just going to have to be, a fact of life and something that they deal with, and something that, you've probably had to deal with as well in your garage. And you figure out a way to, kind of work around it. Over on the right side of the garage, we've got a recessed, I don't remember, I think we're doing a Jumbo 7. Yeah, not a Jumbo 9. Most of his vehicles aren't going to be super heavy, so there's no reason to go with the 9,000 pound lift. So we're doing the 7,000 pound Jumbo 7. And one of the difficulties we figured out was with the lift controller, where do we put that? Do we put it in the cabinet array and risk, taking up, valuable cabinet space, storage? We've got kind of all of this back wall already taken up, and if we try and integrate it into a cabinet or something, it's gonna, interfere with the other things. So what we kind of thought of was, well, we've already got a post here for the 4-post lift, so let's just put the lift controller right next to that. Since it's not really going to be in the way because there's already going to be a lift post there. So that's an idea, or we could even move it towards the front and put it over on this side to get even more out of the way, out of the the cabinet area and stuff. Don't want to put it here because then it would create hardly any space between the post and the controller, which is already at a minimum. So I think that's going to work really well, and having the lift recessed like this means that he'll be able to park on top, roll over it in whichever direction he wants to, pull the car in, sideways like this to be able to wash in that area if he wanted to, or just leave it, straight here, or even just in the middle, which will be pretty handy. So that way he'll be able to kind of use that side of the garage however he wants, and then park, a couple cars in there as normal. But that's pretty much everything that we have planned for now. I'm sure as we go through this process with Charlie, we'll uncover all sorts of other cool items to include, or completely change this and do it differently. But this is the first initial idea, and then we're gonna build this out in our software and present this to Charlie, and then start making some changes and get this dialed in.